right, welcome to KTN Sunrise Live. This is the second part of our discussion. Let's remind you of our question of the day real quick because it pertains to the discussion we're just about to have. We're asking you, why is it so difficult for young graduates to find employment in this country? What is it in your view? Where is the disconnect? You have a lot of graduates who have the right skills, they have the right grades and everything, and they're very successful, but they still find it very difficult to find employment. So that is the focus of our discussion today. So keep your comments coming in. Already seeing some of them, so it's great. Let's keep that conversation. Remember, our Twitter handle is @KTN Kenya. You can tweet me as well, @Yvonne Okwara. And you can also send us your thoughts via SMS. That's 8040. Just what do we need to do? Where is that barrier? And we need to break that. And that is why we have the two ladies with me this morning to talk about that. And I like what they said. They're not coming here with the answers. This is not going to be a lecture session on what young graduates should do. It's more of seeking a consensus and understanding where the problem is, which is why they've started or are in the process of organizing a dialogue to do just that, and they'll be telling us about that this morning. I'm joined by Gichuhi, who is the Executive Director of EDU Worldwide Consultants. We'll talk about that. We also have Pauline Wang'ombe, who's a Managing Consultant with Raydon HR. Thank you both for coming in. Let's talk about that dialogue that is happening. It's on the 27th of March, towards the end of this month. Let's talk about that dialogue and what it is you hope to achieve with that.
The dialogue is a brainstorm. It's something that we have thought about as career consultant and as HR practitioners, that there's always this question that the students or the fresh graduates are not prepared for the workplace. The universities prepare the students and graduate them. There are many of them every year. Many of them are graduated, and when they look for work, it becomes a challenge. What is the gap? What skills are they lacking, so that the workplace or the institutions or the companies always they complain that the fresh graduates are not prepared for the world of work. So those are the questions that we have, and we think, what is the gap? What are the skills that the students are lacking or the graduates are lacking, and how can we bridge that gap?
So this is going in to speak to all the stakeholders involved, young people, the graduates, speaking to universities as well. Just tell us some of the stakeholders that will be present for this, so we can have an understanding of just how broad it is.
We're looking to engage with the universities and the business, because really the dialogue is between the two. You're not giving us the product that we're expecting, but the government also, because some policy issues, and they are key stakeholder. Students themselves would be interested in this process, as well as parents. Actually, anybody who has a stake in education and the product that comes from there.
All right. So everybody, parents, students, university, government, and that is important to talk about. Well, like we said, we're not here to sort of give that lecture, but we do have a lot of feedback that is coming in. We have Kings who says they never get to learn hands-on. The Twitter generation syndrome is killing the creativity in them. But let's get into this because you work a lot with HR. About some of the graduates that come out for job applications. What is it that employers are looking for? Because we have so many people who studied law and they're really good at it, and they've gotten, they're A students. We have so many people who studied engineering or medicine, for example. Is it only about the grades?
No, it isn't about the grades, because experience has shown that you can pick a CV and invite somebody for an interview based on their grades, but things begin to unravel at the interview, because sometimes even before the interview, as a matter of fact, you get people applying for employment. Let's say they are writing to me, for example, and somebody says, "Hi Pauline, I'm writing to ask for a job." There's no business communication skills right from there, and I'm put off, right from the beginning. But those who do make it to that stage where you have the interview, you see gaps, let's say, in communication. they cannot express themselves. We're talking about the Twitter syndrome,
right?
The truncated, I don't even know whether to call it English.
Yes.
I'm not sure it's English anymore.
Right.
On Facebook, on Twitter,
on SMS as well.
Yes, and they are going to be writing, they are going to be communicating with the clients, and increasingly in the world of work, you find that people are coming closer and closer to the customer. You need to communicate with the customer, with the client, and if that is not there, then that is a problem. You get people turning up to work for interviews looking like they weren't prepared for it, even in the way they present themselves. I guess with many small companies, they are the dress code is becoming very flexible.
I know what you mean. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you recall, even with the Law Society of Kenya had to read the Riot Act to lawyers about dress down Fridays, what is acceptable and what is not. So it's also about the presentation, not necessarily about what you've got on paper. Let's also talk about something else that I think a lot of young persons out in the workforce face, and that is the question of experience. Every job requires experience, unless of course you are going in for an intern position, but most of them say, well, we're asked for 3 years experience and I don't have any experience. Is this a challenge that you've heard many youth bringing up?
Yes, many of them also complain about that, but what we have done, that we create forums in the universities, workplace preparedness, so that we invite the corporates to come and share their experiences with the students, so that they can now tell them that this is what we expect from you. If we are looking for when you're placing an advert or a vacancy position in the dailies, then these are the requirements and these are the expectations. We need experience and etc., so that the students get to know that this is what is expected of me. So if it is the experience that they are looking for, then you start volunteering, and it doesn't have to be paid.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay. That's one way of getting around that whole issue of experience, and it's volunteering. Let's also talk about the education system for a moment. Are we focused on grades? And I'll give you a personal example. When we were in campus, we had the common course unit, I think in the first year, which was communication skills. All of this apparently was designed to make us better graduates when we get out into the workforce. Another one that we had, I think, was in the last semester, and we had entrepreneurship 101 or something of the sort. And these are courses, if I can recall, that are taken the least seriously. We all focus on the core units that we're doing, and we want to get that right. And sometimes for those courses, entrepreneurship, most of the graduates will tell you, and most of the students will tell you, well, we don't really care about those others that are meant to sort of make us well-rounded. But do you think there's enough of this that's being done in the education system, so that it's not just teaching you about the grades, but teaching you about other life skills as well?
It's interesting that you should mention entrepreneurship, because when you talk about employment, we are not talking here just about the existing corporates, and we're talking about even self-employment, because that is really where maybe the solution lies for the serious unemployment problem. So when somebody comes out of university with a mentality that somebody owes them a job, there's a problem right there. There are some of the universities that are offering these skills, but there needs to be an attitude change. Education is not, we need to redefine what really the role of education is. There are a lot of people, young people going out there and creating jobs themselves, for themselves and for others, which is what entrepreneurship is all about. I think more can be done. I think this is an opportunity, the dialogue is an opportunity to see how can we change the attitudes of our students, and how can we create those opportunities for them where they can acquire an entrepreneurial mindset and skills.
All right. And speaking about just talking to the young people during this dialogue and their mindsets, there's also sometimes a rigidity. I have studied law, so I will not stop until I get my first, either I'll be a paralegal or whatever it is. Is there also a need for some flexibility now with the work that we do? Because all people who've done law must be lawyers. Is that necessarily so? All people who've done science must be scientists? Is that the rule of thumb? Do you think?
Let me share my
yes.
experience as a human resource manager and a consultant as well. One of the organizations that I worked with, you know, the degree just is taken to show that you are capable of learning, and therefore when we invited people for employment, it didn't matter whether you did anthropology, it didn't matter whether you did law. The head of that organization, which is a consulting, one of the big four, outside the country, he was an engineer. He was not BCom, you know, as maybe most people would expect.
Exactly.
So I think a degree ought to be something that shows that I am capable of learning. You know, give me the opportunity to learn, and I can learn. And therefore, that flexibility ought to be there in my thinking.
Indeed. I was once told having a degree means you're trainable.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Once you have that basis, the rest is really up to that. And I think perhaps a lot of learning lessons that will come out of the dialogue in terms of our mindsets and our attitudes towards it. So let's just go back to, again, the idea of the dialogue. So you come up, and there's a lot of young people who are saying we can't get employment, and it's due to the government or this, and then you decide with the dialogue, and you're having both the government and the private sector. Let's talk about those two in terms of just providing opportunities. What is it, do you think, that young people rightfully or wrongfully expect from the government in terms of employment?
The good thing that we'll have the Ministry of Higher Education, they will share the experiences on what they are doing to bridge that gap in terms of graduates' employability and workplace preparedness. That's why the dialogue is there, so that they can share the experience. Then we also have the Ministry of Labour, the National Industrial Training Authority. They're also there, they're going to be present, so that they can also share how they are charged with that responsibility of helping students or graduates join the workplace, or in terms of internship, in terms of attachment. So they'll be to share that. And I think that's why we're saying that can we all talk to one another and be able to get ideas and be able to how we can implement them.
Okay. There's a thought here that's coming in on Twitter saying Kenyans are more consuming rather than a producing nation. Do we have enough opportunities, or is it take, and perhaps the private sector, perhaps the government doesn't facilitate those sort of opportunities or avenues that are available for young people to engage once they leave school? Do you think there's perhaps some more work to be done in terms of creating those opportunities?
I think historically we have been a consuming people or nation, but I think we are living in very interesting times when you think about Vision 2030 and where we want to go as a country. I think the government is doing plenty, and I think we need to change that mindset of the government needs to do for me. You were talking earlier about how can people build skills. What personal responsibility are you taking? There's your local church, there's that local NGO that you could go to. I think the role of the government is really in policy making and creating an enabling environment where then the responsibility is yours to make use of the opportunities that the government is creating.
I like that, because that's an important one. Juliet Nganga says, sadly, even our schools teach our kids the same, how to consume and not how to produce. And now we're talking about a mind shift, and we're talking about the education system. But let's also talk about the role of, my personal responsibility. Yes, we will fix perhaps what's wrong, and perhaps out of that dialogue that's coming up, we'll talk about some of the solutions that we need perhaps in the Ministry of Higher Education as well. But on a personal level, because I'm a great believer in personal responsibility and deciding what is my role in the whole process, what is the role of the young fresh graduate as he or she seeks employment? You've talked about things like doing something in your church, in terms of even gaining some of those skills that you are talking about, the Twitter generation. What is the role of the personal individual in terms of making sure that I am ready personally for the workforce?
In my view, there's a friend of mine who likes to talk about Google University. There is so much. We live in the information age. When you get information like this, let's say from this sort of discussion that we're having, that the employers are saying you cannot communicate, whether we are talking about writing or whether we are talking about speaking. You know, the graduates are not able to communicate. What are you going to do about that? If you're coming to ask for a consulting job, you cannot write a report because you can't string a sentence together. People don't read. If you look at the amount of time that maybe is spent on Twitter and bashing each other as has been happening recently, I think that there's a lot. They have a lot of time, the young people.
Clearly.
But I don't think that time is being well invested in terms of looking for information, because information there's a lot of it. There's so much information out there and knowledge that you can.
So what we're saying is, if you didn't learn how to write a report in school, Google is your friend. If you don't know how to write a formal application letter for a job, Google is your friend. And these are some of the resources. I know somebody once mentioned to me that anyone who chooses to be ignorant today really does it. Yes,
it's a choice.
It is by choice. And I do believe there's a lot of young people with access to the internet on not necessarily smartphones that are high-end, but a lot of them do access Facebook on their phones and Twitter on their phones, and perhaps they can also use that opportunity to better themselves. So what we're saying is it's a two-pronged approach. Yes, we can fix the education system, but it's also on a personal level that one needs to do. Okay, all right. So the sort of jobs that we go for, do you think we're still stuck in the era of lawyer, teacher, doctor, engineer? Are we still stuck there, or have we made some progress in terms of saying there's so many other avenues that one can reach out for?
Certainly the courses in terms of even the professions have grown, because of the growth in terms of the economy, in terms of the projects that have been initiated. So, and also the traditional professions, because they're also very competitive. That's why we also have the gap in terms of securing a job. So we have now those new areas. The IT is one of the biggest industry that creates an opportunity for virtually everyone. We have if you look at the economy, we have the infrastructure that is growing. So what opportunities are there? If you look in terms of the medical field, if they categorize in terms of the sectors, medical, media, agriculture, engineering, and even the engineering has expanded. There are about 21 branches of engineering, and so they do not have to be stuck into that the big four. And also that's why we create those forums, so that the students also are exposed to those areas and know which areas are growing, which career professions are diminishing, and what can we do about it.
All right. And that's important for a lot of people to be in the know of, that even within the legal profession there's very many other things now that one can do, not necessarily be a lawyer that goes to court to argue cases there. Twitter and social media is something huge, and we cannot get away from it now. We're all on it. Alan Kipp sends a nice tweet. He says, I believe at times people are also turned down before you even know their potential. Twitter is where everyone is now. Agreed. Most people have a Twitter account, a Facebook account, somewhere on social media. Just to demystify this, during a job interview, would you Google me before I walked into the room?
It's interesting you should say that, because some of the things people are saying, they need to know that they can catch up with them, because some employers go so far as to check on the internet what just put your name or go to Facebook and find out what people are up to. So those statements that people make, apart from the things that show what kind of person that you are, in terms of your worldview. And here I'm thinking of our recent experiences in the context of our elections, and what we have seen, the shame and name and shame that has gone on. I'm thinking about that. If you cannot work with other people, if you're not emotionally intelligent enough to engage with people without bashing them, without tearing them apart, do I really want you on board on my ship?
Okay.
I'm not sure.
All right, okay. So it seems to me then there's an opportunity here to turn this around. Rather than to say, okay, what will I be posting on Twitter or Facebook? Is it the latest party I had where I got so drunk and oh my God, it was so much fun. And talking about I can't stand people of this tribe during an election. It seems to me then social media is a huge potential for young people to create a sort of personality that would, get them far in the workplace. Is this underutilized? Do we perhaps realize this yet?
Let me just add before Mercy starts in that it's such a huge platform for useful debate, for sharing knowledge. But I think it's by and large it is being used for the wrong. I guess I don't know whether social means it must be used like that, but it's a very strong platform for sharing information, knowledge. What is it that you have been learning? It can be used for good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It absolutely can.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's also important. That's why we have corporates at the dialogue, so that they can still tell them this is what we expect. When we go to we go to the social media, we'll still get information about you. So what kind of information are you sending out to people?
Right, okay. With everything that we're saying, there's a lot of people who are tempted to say, well, as a young person, this has just been a buzzkill. So as a young person, I'm not supposed to have fun, not supposed to share those experiences and trade that on social media or wherever, that I'm not supposed to express my individuality in how I dress, in how I speak, in the sort of culture of young people as we are. Pauline, sometimes it may sound a little grim, that for me to get that job that I want, I need to dress like an old person. I need to, not have fun and not feel the freedom to share it if indeed I did engage in some fun activities. Is that what we're saying? Is the face of the corporate scene?
No, we're just saying that there's a place for everything and everything in its place. I think some of people live too much of their lives, maybe personal lives, in public. And that's why they're called personal lives.
People live too much of their personal lives in public. That's the next level.
So I think it's choose, and it doesn't mean that you don't have fun. There is a place for that. And then there's also the way that you express it, which is very important. I think we need to be sensitive that better human interaction, really. The other day, this girl that people are bashing. I don't know what she's supposed to have done on that story.
I know,
really, when it gets down to that level, it becomes bullying. That's not having fun at somebody else's expense. You could probably have added more value, but saying how could this person have behaved differently, or how should they behave on their next date?
All right. Absolutely. Talking about an interesting one there. We do know about that.
Not
show
to bully
on
each other.
Yes, not bullying, but do express your sentiments, but in a way that isn't that. Do we have a fertile ground for job opportunities in this country? Is it ripe? Do we do enough in the private sector to create more opportunities? Do we do enough in government to create more opportunities? Or does it just seem like it's the same opportunities that were available 10, 15 years ago, and now we know, like you mentioned, the fields have expanded? Do we need to do more in terms of saying, okay, this is it, jobs are available?
I think there is a lot of expansion. If we think in terms of Konza City, there's an opportunity for many. I'm sure there are many jobs that are going to be created. We have the Lamu Port LAPSET project that is going to from Lamu to South Sudan. So those are opportunities. And how can you position yourself? We have resort cities that are going to be built along that the pipeline that is going to be constructed. We also have the oil exploration in Turkana. What opportunities are there? So they need to be to open the minds, the eyes here.
And maybe just to add on to what Mercy is saying, I think we still must go back to, is it the corporates, because they'll say we are expanding, but we have our core business, and we're focusing on our core business. how can graduates actually create work, and it's happening. Entrepreneurial skills, it just comes down to that, because we can't wait for the existing corporates. Some of them started small, like Raydon is the company that I manage is a small outfit, and who knows, maybe to compete with the big four at some point. So I think it's not waiting just to walk into what is already existing. It's what opportunities can you create also for yourself and for others. Yeah.
All right, here's an interesting one coming from Cliff on Twitter. You say the economy is not growing at the same rate tertiary institutions are releasing graduates into the market. So obviously it's competitive. Do you think, Pauline, we will ever have a situation where the economy is able to absorb everybody that comes into the workforce? I have my thoughts on that, but let's hear from you.
I don't think there's a time that it's going to be able to absorb everybody. I think we should be thinking about self-employment. We should be thinking about exporting skills that are the people the graduates that we are producing able to compete in external markets. You know, when you look at the rankings of the universities, and you find that perhaps we need to pull up our socks so that we can compete on not on the national stage but on the global stage as well.
Yes, we need to start thinking a little wider, a little global. And you know, just talking about that, because those are my thoughts as well. I don't think we'll ever have, I don't think there is an economy in the world that is growing at such a massive rate that it absorbs just about everybody, anyone in any field that's coming into the market. But that being said, then it is a competitive field. I mean, looking for a job really is a competition. We've seen it in the election. We have so many candidates. We can only have one governor, one senator, one county women's rep, or that sort of thing. So what is that edge that graduates need to have? You know, what are some of those things that will be coming out at the dialogue? Obviously there needs to be an edge, because there's not enough jobs for everybody.
Employers are looking for people who are able to manage themselves, to plan, to operate with a certain level of independence, for people who are bringing some critical thinking to the workplace, people who are innovative, who can you know, come and shake things a little in terms of how we do things. Can we do new things? Can we do things differently? I think that is what people need to know, so that you can prepare yourself and give yourself mileage in relation to those you're competing with.
Okay, all right. As we come to the close of this now, how time does fly indeed. Mercy, just remind us about this dialogue, the dates, why it's important, who can attend, can anybody attend, and just again the core reason for putting this together.
The dialogue is on 27th March, next week on Wednesday at Catholic University. The main speakers is the keynote address will be done by the Ministry of Higher Education. Then we have National Industrial Training Authority. We have SME, a representative from SME, from the corporates, and also from an international recruiter, so that they can also share the experience. We've just said that we need to be global, not just national.
Right. Yes. And students can attend.
Students, both students, universities. We already have confirmations. Universities are already sending their students, and it's open. And even the parents, if they are willing, they also need to share, because they are also stakeholders.
Indeed, absolutely, yes. Important stakeholders who invest, you know, in the young persons. Pauline, some final words from you regarding this dialogue, why it's important and what we need to keep our eyes focused on in terms of creating employment?
What I'd like to do is appeal to the stakeholders. Everybody has a stake in this, the government, the students themselves, and to act on the information. We can talk, you know, until the cows come home, but we need to take some actions, both as individuals as well as business, you know, companies, the corporate world, and the government as well. So we are appealing to them to come out in large numbers and participate in this dialogue.
Okay. Yes. And just as we close, so what happens now after the dialogue? What are sort of the way forward that we're seeing? Pauline is talking about acting and not just about talking. In that regard, what would be the outcomes of this? So
we'll be able to get, when people talk, we'll be able to get ideas. How is the gap going to be reduced? So is it soft skills training institute that the government is going to start? And Is it the corporates that are going to work with the universities so that they can restructure the curriculum so that it accommodates the skills, the soft skills that are lacking? So technically, we still need to know what is what is lacking with the fresh graduates, so that the corporates can also come in and be able to advise in terms of curriculum development.
Okay, and so it will be taking the conversation forward. Even after you speak now, it will be holding Ministry of Higher Education to account, perhaps, and the corporates to account as well?
Yeah, just to add that the government is already doing something about this in terms of bringing business and the institutes of higher learning together so that they can see how to bridge the gap. This is what we are seeking to contribute towards, and to have a plan of action and a roadmap that is going to help to bridge these gaps that we're talking about.
So it's not just talk, it's definitely moving forward into action. Thank you very much for that. Generated a good discussion, I think. Been speaking to Pauline Wang'ombe and Mercy Gichuhi, who are both involved in this national dialogue that is taking place starting next week on the 27th of March. And that was our question of the day today. We're asking you why it's difficult for graduates to find employment. Okay, so let me just take a look at your feedback, and then I hope to be able to leave you with the quote of the day. Perhaps it might give you some inspiration on how to get this done. So let's get into some of your feedback, quite a bit of it. Okay. Sami Penda, you say it's partly caused by poor networking. Apparently the phrase "you should know people holds water." So doing that in a positive way. What sort of networking are you doing? Anthony Bishop says some people believe certain universities have more marketable degrees than others. This is real to employers. Obviously, in terms of doing your research before you embark on a course in a certain university, might be good to see what their reputation is in the corporate world. We also have one: if government keeps on recycling old people in government positions, hiring services of technocrats outside Kenya as well. Those are some of the challenges that you see talking about there. And then, do our graduates produce? Charles Inwani, you ask. We're a nation of consumers irrespective of education. Blame the education, and that's why I suppose the Ministry of Higher Education will be there to talk about that. Chief Kea, you say we need to talk about manufacturing jobs especially, and then ignorance and laziness plays a big role in unemployment. That's Dos Kariuki, thank you for that. Do we create fertile ground to be a producing nation? Just an appeal we asked. We posed that and answered that question. Keegan Ambei, you say recycling of employees is a major problem here. The fresh graduates are not given the chance to show what they have. I hope the corporates are listening. And then there's also one here: is it legal to Google someone before an interview? In developed countries, it's an infringement on the Bill of Rights. Well, I'm not a lawyer, but my 2 cents is it is a public forum. So if you choose to say something in public, just think about that. While we can discuss the legalities or the illegalities of it, fact is what you are putting out there says something about you, and that's something you might definitely want to think about. So that is what we're talking about. Keep the discussion going. The 27th is when that is happening. If you want more details on that, you can always send me a tweet and I can forward you that. But it is a discussion that we need to have. And like Pauline Wang'ombe said, not only have the discussion, but then move it forward into action. But of course, the first thing would be to get together and to be able to speak and to talk. And this is what will be happening in this forum. It will be students talking to the government, talking to the corporate sector, talking to each other. So here's my quote of the day, and hopefully it'll help you with that. Today comes from JFK, that's John F. Kennedy. It says, things don't happen. Things are made to happen. Things do not happen. Things are made to happen. Think about that as you think about what it is that we're all doing towards creating employment. And this goes to the corporate sector, to the government, to the private sector, to the media, and most importantly to you, the graduate, as well. Thank you for joining us on KTN Sunrise Live today. I hope you've had a good one. My name is Yvonne Okwara. Let's keep this discussion going on Twitter in a nice way, in full English, please. Let's see you again tomorrow. Have a good day. Be blessed. Bye-bye.
live in association with Mini.